Talking with the experts.
In episode 372, Adam Liette shares with us how we can remove CEOs from the day-to-day running of our businesses by building in operating systems.
Well, I have an easy step to get started if you're hearing this and saying, oh gosh, process. Because here's what happens.
Absolutely, that's why you're here.
Yeah. we think about these things and we get bogged down in the details. We think of, what does an SOP look like? Oh, I better Google how to create an SOP. And then we get shown this convoluted thing from some Fortune 500 company that's like 10 layers deep. You don't need that right now. My secret weapon is a little piece of software called ScreenFlow. I have it installed on my Mac. And what do? I literally will record myself going through a process and then narrate myself going through it. So I'll be talking through the process and be like, okay, so I'm editing my podcast for today. Here's the first step I take, and literally narrating myself going through it. Sounds a bit crazy, right? But imagine someone else is listening to this.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today my guest is Adam Liette.
Liette, yeah, first time, nailed it.
Perfect. Adam Liette. So just me being a bit of a tool. Anyway, we're going to be discussing building an operating system into your business. That is the way to remove CEOs from the day-to-day running of the business and into revenue generating activities. Now, Adam is the founder and director of Smooth Operations, which helps entrepreneurs create the systems and workflows needed to scale online companies. As the former director of operations for Musical You, these systems tripled the team size and increased revenue by over 600% in the past 2 years, earning the 2 Comma Club Award from ClickFunnels. Well. He's a 12-year veteran of the US Army Special Operations, a seasoned authority in psychological warfare, look out, and influence operations in addition to having a Master's of Business Administration. Welcome, Adam, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Rose. It's a very early morning for me, late evening for you, but it's great we could get the chance to meet in this environment. I love that we are worldwide. It's changed the world, hasn't it?
COVID, something for COVID, a positive out of COVID, I think, is we've become closer, even though we can, we're like miles apart, we can communicate across the world. And it's something that we didn't do very well pre-COVID, and it's just, it's so much better now.
And as business owners, we don't need to teach our clients and prospects how to use Zoom anymore. It's fantastic.
No, true fact. Yes, there's a lot of people to become a little bit more tech savvy during lockdown and so forth. They've had to, I guess,
for sure,
keep themselves occupied so they weren't totally messed up and Netflixing. I don't know. Is it Netflix? Yeah, Netflix. They weren't
Netflix. Yeah.
I don't watch it, so there you go. Anyway, tell me a little bit about Smooth Operations.
So Smooth, it's a new company. I started about 7 weeks ago, and it's because I see an opportunity for business owners in the market. There's so much that we need to do to empower and train our number twos in the business. And while there are a numerous litany of ways to train CEOs and the visionary entrepreneurs, there's kind of this, which way do you take in the second command? What does that look like? Is it, there's the integrator model, there's like the OBM model. I am firmly in the operator model, which an operator, it's a different personality type from the visionary. It's a tactician with an entrepreneurial mindset. So when I found out who I was, when I discovered my true superpower, it became this passion project of mine to find people like me, because I realized I'm not alone. I realized there's nothing strange about me. I'm actually perfectly normal. I just have I have my own personality type and my own drive. And so it inspired me to start this, to help my people realize their superpowers and what we can do for the businesses we work for. And it's been just a great passion project that, in its only first couple months of actual existence, is proving to be a model. I mean, I'm finding my people out there, so it's been a fantastic journey so far.
How have you been able to bring your past history into your present history? I mean, coming from special ops,
Yes.
really, and psychological warfare. I mean, you could use the psychological warfare part, but special ops is a bit different. How did you bring that into your business?
Yeah, I mean, psychological warfare, it sounds scary, like you said in the intro. What is it basically? It's cultural, or it's social marketing at a military scale. So instead of, some of the famous social marketing campaigns that we know of, the only you can stop forest fires is the most popular one from like the 60s and 70s, up to like the anti-smoking campaigns that have reduced smoking by exponential rates in the last couple decades. What does psychological warfare really do? We were working counterterrorism, but we were working from the information side. So how do we discourage adopting terrorist tactics and being recruited into terrorist organizations by those that were vulnerable and susceptible to that through information, and instead trying to shift them towards a more positive future? So it was very exciting. How did it really fuel my growth into the business world? Is it taught me leadership skills, organizational skills, and the power of critical thinking, and how to really look at a problem set from the 10,000-foot view, be able to take in lots of macro data and be able to distill it down into actionable steps that I could take at the tactical level. So it was all that very big strategic vision that continues to serve me to this day. And as I started working in the online sphere, and that's about 4 years ago, I left the active duty and started working online. I naturally found myself in the operations role, running businesses, working with CEOs, and that led me to Musical You, which I became the director of operations for, and was with that company for almost 5 years. And as I mentioned in the intro, grew the company, built the systems that run the company to this day. And oddly enough, one of the things I'm most proud of is I was able to leave the company and nothing changed. The company was able to continue moving on without my presence, because the system we built is dependent upon the system, and you can plug and play people into the system. Versus so often, when, especially, it's not our fault when you're a small business, we're creating businesses around people, but that's not scalable, right? People need to be able to run the operating system versus people feeling like they have the whole weight of the company on their back.
So that's a good point, really. I mean, we all start off as solopreneurs, or most of us do anyway. And, and then we scale and we employ either virtual assistants or we get staff into the organization. But most often than not, we don't have the systems in place that if we have to have a day off, the place doesn't fall apart.
Exactly right. And that's so frustrating. I mean, we're told by every leadership life coach, whatever, expert Tony Robbins style person, that you need to have your days off, you need to have your me time. But then we stick ourselves in the day-to-day of running the company, and it's so terribly frustrating. So the first step we really have to take to be able to get ourselves to that place is documenting process. Like, what process are we using to do the day-to-day things in the business? Everything from lead gen and social media content posting. I mean, that's kind of like your baseline stuff of the stuff that's happening every day in the business, that we as solopreneurs might be the ones still doing it. The question I would always ask, and I ask myself on a regular basis, is, yes, I'm doing this work right now. Do I have to be doing it? Does it have to be me? And if it really has to be me, why? Like, it's almost a challenge of what can I outsource? What can I process to get it off my desk? Because if we find success in something that we're able to do, and it's a step-by-step process, you can't teach someone else to do that.
Yeah,
And that's kind of the
right.
challenge, is documenting and then outsourcing process on a regular basis. And it's, once you get into it, Rose, it's addicting. I'll be perfectly honest. Once I realized I could outsource, I was like, every week I'm trying to outsource something new. So it's just this crazy addictive drug you get hooked on, of outsourcing your expertise and your success to others.
And that's what happens with people who are starting out. They keep all the information in their head. I am so guilty of it. I don't write down anything. And me, who is a process-driven individual, keep it still in my head. I have written nothing down about anything. So if I were to outsource, then I'd be in a big, huge rush to try and explain to somebody, what it is that I do. So, and I keep saying to myself, you start writing it down, Rose, because, there's going to come a time that, I want to give it to somebody else. And yeah, and they won't have the knowledge there, or the step-by-step process to do what I do. And I'm wanting them to do it exactly like I do it. Otherwise, to me, it won't be right. But I once I trusted them enough, I'd let them have input into it, because they're actually doing the job, and they might find shortcuts that I haven't discovered. So,
and that's the beauty of it. Like, you start the process, you think you have it nailed down, and then you bring in someone else who says, yeah, that's great, but what about this thing? Like, it's that two minds is better than one mentality. The way all of us can get started in doing this, though, as solopreneurs, is like, if you're not working from a process right now, start. Like, it feels counterintuitive to be working with, if you're working by yourself, do you need a project management software? I would say you do. Like, you should sign up for Asana or Monday or ClickUp, or it doesn't matter. It's not about the tool. It's about having a way to document your process from day one. I do all my, like, as an example, right now, I do all of my own podcasting. I edit it, I post it, I do all the stuff. But I'm working from a template in Asana, even though it's just me. Why? Because I recognize that if I'm not documenting the process from step one, then I'm going to be playing catch up someday. So even though it's just me and I know the steps frontwards and backwards, in and out, I'm still working from an Asana project, because I want to tighten it up over time. I want to expand upon it. I want to add to it, take things off that don't make sense anymore, in anticipation of that wonderful, glorious day where I'm like, yep, it's coming. All right, time to hire and outsource this, which isn't far away. Actually, right now, it's about 2 weeks away from me. So I'm geeking out a little bit about my new hire I'm bringing on.
Oh, well done. Yeah, I do all my own editing as well, and it's quite a lengthy process. I mean, I do almost 12 interviews a week, so it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours per episode to edit and then upload to all of the platforms. And I think, well, that's 24 hours a week basically that I'm could be doing other things. So yeah, I actually made a blog about that, and trouble is that I didn't take my own advice.
Well, I have an easy step to get started if you're hearing this and saying, oh gosh, process. Because here's what happens.
Absolutely, that's why you're here.
Yeah. we think about these things and we get bogged down in the details. We think of, what does an SOP look like? Oh, I better Google how to create an SOP. And then we get shown this convoluted thing from some Fortune 500 company that's like 10 layers deep. You don't need that right now. My secret weapon is a little piece of software called ScreenFlow. I have it installed on my Mac. And what do? I literally will record myself going through a process and then narrate myself going through it. So I'll be talking through the process and be like, okay, so I'm editing my podcast for today. Here's the first step I take, and literally narrating myself going through it. Sounds a bit crazy, right? But imagine someone else is listening to this and they're walking through your process. Here's the crazy thing that happens when you're narrating your own process. You're going to get to something and you're going to say, well, that doesn't make any bit of sense. Why am I doing things that way? And you're going to optimize your own process in the process of documenting it. And you'll go through version 1, version 2, version 3. Eventually, you have a process on video, and boom, there's a start of your SOP. It's a video of you just narrating the process of going through it. What can we do with the video? Well, we have an audio file so we can transcribe it. Ooh, well, there you go. Now you got some steps you can put into a document and then start to build it out into those steps and then put those as subtasks in your project. It all came from that video. But start with action, because we are action-oriented people. We're used to just doing. So why not lean into what we're already comfortable with, what is already our superpower, and use that superpower to fuel everything else?
Yeah, I've written so many procedure statements and policy documents in my time, and I've been on this business journey for 6 years, and I've changed the process so many times, as you do, because you refine them as you go along. But it's a really good point. Rather than writing it, videotape it. Great tip. Thank you for sharing that. I will take that on board.
Yeah, and once you start doing it, it's addicting. Like I said, with outsourcing, if I can document everything, I have spent weeks of my life where I was getting ready to outsource something just with ScreenFlow on constantly, and then I'll just edit at the end of the day down into chunks. But I would just keep it on. Anytime I was doing any kind of process I wanted to document, it was always ScreenFlow first and figure out the rest of it later.
So, what other tips have you got? I really like that one. That's a good one. I like that.
The other a big tip I'd have is like leaning into what I call the operating system. When we look at, so I come from military background, right? A military unit can do an amazing thing. We can run together for miles in step, in sequence, and stay in a tight-knit formation. How do we do that? We do it through a cadence, and it's literally just someone organizing the formation next to us, singing, and there's all these cadence songs that they sing. You just Google like military running songs. You'll be on them for days.
You hear them in the
great.
movies all the time.
Yes, and most of them are not appropriate for like public forums like this, because especially the fun ones, we put in some colorful language.
The fun ones. I like the fun.
Yes. But it's all about being in cadence. Getting your team, your company in cadence is one of the tricks to having a company that's moving forward together, moving forward in the same direction. How do we do that, right? Because most of us are virtual, right? We're not in this traditional office environment where we have coffee hours and social time. We're in remote environments. So what we have fooled ourselves into thinking is that remote environments do not need the same kind of stability and structure that we can do in an in-person environment. In-person environments have that benefit, but we can also do it in a remote environment. How do we do that? We do it through scheduled and predictable activities, meetings, and team-wide collaborations. Even though we're remote, there's no reason we can't have daily huddles. We can't have weekly coordinated team meetings. We can't have departmental meetings. We can't have reports that are due. All these things that we can put into our like overall way of running our business gets us in step. It's that digital version of the sergeant leading the formation saying left, left, your left, right, left. I've been a sergeant for a long time, as you can tell. So what I would encourage you to do, even if it's just you as the solopreneur, you can build structure into your business right now to give yourself that predictability. So how do we do this? I have on my calendar, I've already built out my own structure of how my business runs. I have my strategic time where I sit down and I work on strategic projects for the business. I work on the strategic vision, planning. I'm already working from a quarterly and a monthly plan as a solopreneur without a team. Why? Because I know that if I don't start a strategic vision and narrow it down into quarterly goals and then get monthly projects based on those quarterly goals, I mean, that's what I'm teaching my students. So if I'm not doing it, A, I'm being a hypocrite. B, I know that system works. So why wouldn't I be doing it? So I start with that strategic vision into my goals and projects. I even have my own like internal team meeting time. It's just me and a VA. But why can't we have like a monthly time or weekly time at start of every week? We're saying, okay, Adam, this week, it might be me talking to myself, but that's the fun part about this. This week, here's what you're doing. That's what we do if we had a team. So start from the beginning, where you have that time every Monday where you are thinking of your business and what you're going to be doing in the coming week. You have your time at the end of the week where you're reviewing the week and reviewing your successes, reviewing what happened, and starting to look forward to the next week. These are the things you're going to want to have in place when you have a team. So start them from day one. And when you have that series of systemized, calendared, and predictable activities, we human beings are creatures of habit. We're creatures of schedule. And to fool ourselves into thinking that because you're a solopreneur, it means I can work 2 hours here, work 2 hours there. It might be fun for a couple of weeks. You're going to drive yourself crazy after a couple of months, though. I promise you that after having done it. So give yourself that structure as soon as possible, and you're going to be able to pull teams into it and never miss a beat.
Wonderful advice. That's a step 2. Okay, what's step 3?
In terms of like building operating systems and teams?
Yeah.
So from there, it's about recruiting the best talent you can. It's about hiring. There's the hiring process. I use a 3-step process where I interview for culture first. Does someone fit into my culture? Do they have a DISC personality that I'm going to be able to work with, to tolerate? And the DISC personality assessment is the one I prefer. There are several other ones. There's like the Enneagram or whatever. Doesn't matter what tool. Like I said, it just matters that you're consistent with it and you use it. So lean in with culture and start building that company culture from day one. The second step in my hiring process is I employ trial tasks. So I want to see how you're actually able to work within a trial task. And those are always paid. I pay for people to do trial tasks. I don't expect them to do them free, because you're going to get your best work when you pay. Only then do we move into an actual formal interview. Now, what we are constantly afraid of, and I get it, cash flow is a thing. And we think, well, I can't afford to hire until I can afford to hire. I get it. But how many revenue generating activities do you have in the back of your mind where it's like, if I just had time, I could do this. If I just had time, I could do this. So this is just a case study from my own experience. Is I had this exact thing happen to me just about a year ago, where I was challenged. You need to get this off your desk. You need to hire. And it was from my coach, who told me, Adam, what's your bet? What are you best at as far as revenue generating activities? What's your highest level of contribution? And I laid out one activity that, it's email marketing. I'm on Ninja in the automation side and doing all that fun stuff in Infusionsoft, which is a skill set unto itself. And he said, that's great. Outsource that. Get that off your plate. You have 30 days, go. Whoa. So I had to hire.
Yeah, that's what I would have said too. I would have said worse than that.
Yes.
What you talking about?
That's about what I said, until I, went and reflected on it. And I was like, well, you paid this guy a lot of money to give you advice, so take his advice. Here's what happened. I took his advice. It took me a little longer than 30 days, but I got it in about 60. When I outsourced that part of my work, I'm a creative person, right? That creative void in me has to be filled, and I'm going to fill it. I lost it. I took the creative part off my desk. It was gone. There was a void in my life, and I felt it deep within my soul. It hurt not having that. So what did I do? I went looking for my next creative venture, because we all know we're going to find it, right? We know we have to. It's part of our being. I launched a new initiative in the company, actually, to build out. We built out our affiliate program. I built it from ground up using all the creative juice I had, and we did almost $500,000 revenue in 6 months, just for me having the space to think, the space to be creative. Growing your business is about creating space for you, the creative visionary. You have to be looking to create space however you can. The main tool to do that is through outsourcing. So hiring good people and unloading stuff off your desk that is systemized, that is SOP'd, to free up your creative space, because it's there. It's there. Be truthful with yourself. We all keep these wonderful journals of all the great ideas we have and all these visions of our future. And then we bog ourselves down with work that prevent us from ever doing that.
The shiny
It's
objects, though, that's, I'm a shiny
yes,
object kind of person. And the next one, if I'm finding a task that's really boring and I see something that's shiny, or this epiphany, then it's full on with the epiphany and bugger the boring job.
yes. Well, the shiny object syndrome can be self-defeating if we're putting shiny objects on top of our workload. So
Absolutely.
lean into unloading the workload first, then the shiny objects, there's actually quite a bit of clarity around them, is what I found. I do a lot of reflection, I do a lot of thinking, and I have a strategic process that I use to create what I call lines of effort, where I don't just jump into something, but I start with a strategic vision. Like, what does this actually look like? And I take the time to develop that out. And you might develop a shiny object out and get to the end of your strategic vision of it and go, well, I'm not excited about this anymore, right? So taking a couple of hours to have to think through that process will show you what you're actually excited about. And the thing that you do get, those little feels, those little moments of, ooh, I will jump through hoops to get this done. That's the one you pursue. You might produce 2 or 3 strategic visions before you find that one. Once you find it, though, you now have the creative space to jump both feet into the
Oh,
process.
I'm going to have to get your phone number, and I'm just going to have to put you on speed dial. Tell me a bit about your podcast.
So my podcast is called Smooth Operator. We lean into the day-to-day tactical activities that govern your business, the things that you have to do to grow a business and make it successful. At this moment, I'm recording a series on influence, the science of persuasion, a great book by Robert Cialdini. If you have not read Robert Cialdini, I would highly encourage it. I'm a reader. You can see my background. I try to read at least a book a week is my goal, because books, I learned so much just from that act. That being said, so in this series of episodes, I go through Cialdini's influence series one by one, because as business leaders, we are in the influence game. It's just a matter of what we do. We're constantly trying to get influence with our team, with the market, with our prospects. It's all about being able to put yourself in a position of authority as the expert, and using these little subtle strategies. They're not tricks, they're not tactics, they are strategies to gain influence, to gain an expert's edge. And the great thing is, when we look at the people we're all trying to model, once you learn these tricks of the trade, you look at what they're doing, you're like, oh, he's using principle 3. He's using principle 2. It's really fun when you're able to do that. So I was like, well, I might as well go down the gamut and look at influence from a team leading perspective. So that's the interviews or the episodes that I'm currently recording. I also interview industry leaders, and especially people within the operating space, the second in commands that are running online companies.
Oh, well done. Look out for Smooth Operator, people, and check out Adam's podcast. Where's it available?
It's on my website, so adamliette.com. So it's audio podcast, ADAMLIETTE. But yeah, we're on the major platforms: Google, Spotify, and Apple. So you can find us there. And if you're interested in being on the show, do feel free to reach out. You'll find a contact button on my website.
So we've already said where people can find your podcast, so they'll find you at the same place if they want to reach out to you and work with you, or find out a bit more about how you can help them. Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for getting up early in the morning to talk to me, although you'd be used to getting up early in the morning.
Yeah, I'm a morning person. I'm a 4 a.m.er. So I had to delay my workout a little bit, but that's okay. So
never mind.
It's all good.
I'll let you get to it. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've learned a lot, surprisingly. So I will. I'll re-watch this and take up your suggestions and put them into practice. I think they will benefit me in a huge way, because I've been putting it off far too long.
Most of us have. So if you're hearing this, you're thinking, why didn't I do that 5 months ago or 5 years ago? You're not alone. And that's the beauty of this whole thing. We're all finding each other in this crazy world. And when you find the right person, when you find someone, it's just this wonderful, beautiful thing that we have, and the human experience continues to give to all of us. And I find myself meeting someone new every week. I'm like, I am so happy I met that person. And likewise here, Rose. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you
Well,
so
you
much.
enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks, Adam.
Hi, Rose. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.